Zendaya just did what no one else in Hollywood has had the courage to do. She called out one of the most powerful luxury brands in the world and demanded real answers. She's not doing a soft campaign, not posing with a gifted bag, and certainly not hiding behind polite PR talk. Instead, she's publicly asking Hermes to prove the one thing they've guarded for decades. Where exactly are their bags made? Not in vague statements or stylized documentaries, but with hard receipts, factory logs, sourcing documents, and proof of authenticity. Her demand isn't performative, it's strategic, and it just lit a match under the entire fashion industry. This isn't just about exposing a production process. It's about tearing down the illusion that Hermes has sold for years, that every Birkin bag is handcrafted in a serene French atelier by a master artisan, using methods passed down through generations. For decades, customers have bought into that image, justifying sky-high price tags in the name of exclusivity and craftsmanship. But now, with whistleblower TikToks, leaked footage, and mounting consumer outrage flooding social media, that image is collapsing. And when someone like Zendaya enters the conversation, someone with global influence, fashion credibility, and the trust of millions, the stakes skyrocket. Because this isn't just a scandal anymore, it's a reckoning. Hermes built an empire on secrecy, scarcity, and status. But now, it's that very secrecy that's unraveling their power. Zendaya's demand for transparency has turned what was once a whisper campaign into a full-blown cultural crisis. This isn't just about one bag or one brand. It's about a luxury industry being dragged into the light, kicking and screaming. And as Zendaya forces Hermes to confront the truth, the world is watching closely to see what happens when a billion-dollar illusion begins to crack. If you think this is just celebrity gossip, think again, because what's coming next could change fashion forever. For years, Hermes sold more than just leather goods. They sold a story. A fantasy crafted around French heritage, generational artisanship, and the belief that luxury meant patience, privilege, and provenance. The Birkin bag wasn't just marketed as an accessory, it was elevated to icon status. According to the narrative, each bag was lovingly hand-stitched in a quiet French atelier by artisans who trained for years just to earn the right to assemble one. This process, they claimed, justified the five-figure price tag, the waitlist that spanned years, and the whispered rumors of limited production runs. Consumers didn't question it, they romanticized it. Owning a Birkin became a rite of passage for the ultra-wealthy and fashion elite. It wasn't just about style, it was about access. The exclusivity of even being considered for one was part of the allure. Women didn't just buy the bag, they bought into the brand's mythology. A Birkin represented status, power, and taste. It was flaunted in closets, shown off in social media posts, and celebrated as an investment piece that would only grow in value. People waited years for one. Some spent tens of thousands on other Hermes items just to get on the coveted list. But what if that fantasy, every carefully crafted detail of it, was never real to begin with? That's the uncomfortable question haunting the brand right now. If Hermes wasn't fully transparent about how and where these bags are made, then the entire foundation of their luxury status starts to crumble. Are customers really paying for rare artisanal craftsmanship? Or are they paying for a logo? One that's been attached to bags potentially made in outsourced production lines, far from the serene ateliers promised in glossy campaigns. If that's the case, then it's not just a brand that's been exposed. It's a global belief system built on trust, and that trust is being shattered one viral video at a time. It didn't come from a breaking news headline. It didn't start with a journalist or an industry insider. The first major crack in Hermes's polished facade came from a single TikTok, blurry, unfiltered, and filmed from inside a Chinese factory. The video showed rows of what appeared to be Hermes-style handbags being assembled in bulk, not in a boutique workshop, but on a full-scale production line. The creator claimed to be a former worker with first-hand knowledge of how the bags were made and where they ended up. The shocking claim? That these very bags were the same ones being sold in Hermes boutiques for tens of thousands of dollars. The video exploded across TikTok, racking up millions of views within hours. And that was just the beginning. Other creators, many claiming to be involved in luxury manufacturing, began uploading their own footage. They revealed stitching techniques, material breakdowns, estimated production costs, and even alleged pay scales for workers. According to multiple sources, the average cost to manufacture a Birkin-style bag hovered around $400. But once the final pieces were assembled, often just the hardware or a single stitch, they were sent to France, slapped with a Made in France label, and flipped for as much as $38,000. Suddenly, the world's most admired luxury bag didn't feel artisanal. It felt industrial. The response was immediate and intense. Influencers who once proudly displayed their Birkin collections were now making side-by-side comparisons with high-end dupes that looked nearly identical. Consumers began combing through their own bags, checking tags, receipts, and packaging for any real proof of origin. But what they found was silence. Hermes offered no clear explanation, no transparency, and no documentation to back up its lofty claims. TikTok, once dismissed by the fashion elite as superficial noise, had become the most powerful investigative tool in luxury. And as the videos kept coming, the brand's greatest asset, its aura of mystery, had morphed into its greatest liability. While Hermes tried to weather the storm in silence, Zendaya stepped into the spotlight with a boldness the fashion world wasn't ready for. She didn't release a vague statement or subtly unfollow the brand like others might. According to multiple insiders, she went straight to the source, contacting Hermes representatives directly and demanding hard proof. Not curated press tours or romanticized behind-the-scenes footage. She asked for real documentation, factory tours, sourcing records, and verified proof of where these bags were actually being made. And because she's not just another influencer or A-list actress, because she's Zendaya, those demands carried weight that shook the industry. Zendaya's approach felt different from the usual celebrity call-outs. It wasn't dramatic or performative, it was calculated and clear. She wasn't seeking headlines, she was seeking accountability. And that's why her actions hit harder than any viral TikTok or fashion critic's blog. She gave a voice to what millions of consumers were already thinking. We've spent thousands, now show us the truth. As word of her demand spread, it sparked a ripple effect. Stylists, editors, designers, and even former Hermes employees began chiming in. What began as digital outrage suddenly had a powerful figurehead. Zendaya's move transformed a scattered scandal into an organized movement, and the fashion world couldn't ignore it any longer. Her message was precise and unapologetic. If you're going to charge luxury prices, you better deliver luxury integrity. In an era where Gen Z consumers are laser-focused on ethics, sustainability, and transparency, hiding behind tradition and exclusivity just doesn't cut it anymore. Zendaya wasn't asking for much, just proof that the values Hermes sells in their marketing actually exist behind the scenes. And in doing so, she flipped the power dynamic. For once, it wasn't the brand dictating the conversation, it was the consumer, led by a global icon, demanding receipts. When the TikTok exposés went viral and Zendaya's demand for proof echoed across the internet, Hermes had a chance to respond with transparency. They could have opened their workshops, issued clarifying statements, or acknowledged the growing concern from their global customer base. But instead, they took the legal route, filing lawsuits against several Chinese manufacturers. On paper, the allegations focused on intellectual property theft and counterfeiting, but the timing and targets of these lawsuits raised eyebrows. Many of the factories being sued were reportedly the very same facilities Hermes had quietly relied on for years to meet growing demand while maintaining the illusion of exclusivity. This move didn't clear the air, it clouded it further. Legal analysts quickly dissected the wording in the complaints and noticed a glaring omission. Nowhere did Hermes explicitly deny outsourcing parts of its production. The filings avoided confirming or denying whether any portion of their bags were made in China. Instead, the brand focused on vague terms like unauthorized production and brand misrepresentation, carefully sidestepping the actual issue at the heart of the scandal. To critics and consumers alike, it looked less like Hermes was protecting its craftsmanship and more like it was scrambling to control the narrative. The lawsuits didn't answer questions, they multiplied them. The public reaction was swift and unforgiving. Rather than appearing as a brand defending its legacy, Hermes came off as defensive, evasive, and opaque. Social media erupted with commentary. If you're suing whistleblowers instead of addressing the claims, what are you hiding? Influencers, fashion bloggers, and even longtime customers began calling it what it looked like, an intimidation tactic, a desperate attempt to bury the truth instead of confronting it. Every legal filing, instead of restoring faith, pushed the brand deeper into a PR disaster. And as the documents piled up, so did public suspicion. The brand that once sold silence as sophistication was now being dragged for using that silence to conceal the truth. The outrage didn't fade, it multiplied. What started as a few viral videos quickly snowballed into a digital revolt. TikTok became the epicenter of a full-fledged movement, with influencers who once boasted about their Hermes hauls now publicly returning their bags and calling out the brand for deception. "This isn't luxury," one creator said in a now viral post. "It's a $30,000 scam wrapped in orange packaging." Refund requests flooded Hermes boutiques. High-end resale platforms saw a spike in listings from frustrated customers offloading their so-called investments. The anger wasn't performative, it was personal. People felt duped and they weren't staying quiet. On Reddit, detailed timelines chronicled every twist in the scandal, from the first factory leak to Zendaya's explosive demand for transparency. Twitter became a receipts hub, filled with side-by-side comparisons of Hermes marketing versus alleged factory reality. Even Instagram, typically a polished haven for luxury brands, turned hostile. Influencers began disabling comments on Hermes-related posts, overwhelmed by waves of followers demanding answers. The once coveted Birkin, long considered the ultimate status symbol, suddenly became a symbol of betrayal. And no PR campaign, no aesthetic grid post could undo the damage being done in real time. This wasn't just outrage, it was a reckoning. "Show us the receipts" became more than a comment. It became a movement-wide mantra. Consumers were no longer interested in buying into branding. They wanted evidence, proof that their five-figure purchases weren't built on fiction. And brands that couldn't deliver that, they were canceled, not with hashtags, but with returns, refunds, and lost credibility. The days of blind trust in legacy luxury were over. A new era had begun, one fueled by integrity, transparency, and accountability. And Hermes was quickly learning that once that trust is broken, there's no premium price tag that can buy it back. The ripple effect was immediate and terrifying for the rest of the luxury world. As Hermes scrambled to contain the fallout, major fashion houses like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Dior, and Gucci reportedly went into crisis mode. Emergency meetings were held behind closed doors. Executives demanded social media teams monitor trending hashtags by the hour. Retailers quietly prepared for waves of returns, while customer service lines grew tense with complaints. If Hermes, the brand seen as untouchable, could be exposed so publicly and so viciously, then no label was truly safe. The entire luxury ecosystem was suddenly standing on unstable ground. What made the panic even worse? These powerhouse brands had all followed the same blueprint: create a sense of scarcity, wrap it in secrecy, and charge a premium for the illusion of exclusivity. But that playbook stopped working the moment consumers started asking questions and getting answers from factory workers instead of fashion PR teams. Viral TikToks, Reddit exposés, and Gen Z watchdogs weren't just poking holes in luxury's narrative, they were ripping it wide open. The new generation of buyers isn't impressed by mystique anymore. They want transparency, receipts, and real value. And they're not afraid to walk away from a legacy brand that can't provide it. Some labels tried to course correct. Chanel quietly released a vague statement on sustainability. Gucci floated a global craftsmanship campaign to reframe its production practices. Others chose silence, hoping to dodge the wave altogether. But it was already too late. The damage had been done, and the age of unquestioned luxury was over. Every tag that says "Made in Italy" or "Handcrafted in France" is now being scrutinized like never before. Every luxury purchase is being evaluated not just for style, but for truth. The fashion industry is entering a new era, one where mystery no longer sells, and only verified integrity can keep a brand alive. For years, the luxury fashion industry has thrived on language designed to seduce. Words like handmade, limited edition, and made in France have carried weight far beyond their literal meaning, projecting images of old-world craftsmanship, intimate ateliers, and generational legacy. But now those same words are being unmasked. Handmade might mean a worker touched a seam. Limited edition could just refer to seasonal inventory. And made in France. That label might only apply to the final buckle or stitch before a product is boxed and shipped to a boutique with a 5-figure price tag. The illusion worked for decades, propped up by glossy campaigns, elite runway shows, and the unspoken rule that if it's expensive, it must be real. But social media has flipped the script. TikTok, Reddit, and Instagram have become consumer watchdogs, where luxury myths are dissected, receipts are exposed, and buzzwords are broken down in real time. Suddenly, the customer base that brands once dismissed as aesthetically driven is proving to be smarter, louder, and more skeptical than ever. Gen Z isn't just window shopping, they're fact-checking. Millennials aren't just following trends, they're tracing supply chains, and they're doing it with precision. This isn't just a brand crisis, it's an industry reckoning that's been decades in the making. Luxury houses built their empires on exclusivity, but in 2025, exclusivity without accountability is no longer enough. Consumers want ethics, not just elegance. They want proof, not just polish. And unless brands are ready to lift the curtain and let the world see how the magic is made, they risk losing more than sales. They risk losing trust, legacy, and cultural relevance. What Hermes is facing now? It's just the beginning. Because when the illusion breaks, it doesn't just hurt one brand. It exposes an entire industry built on secrecy. Zendaya's demand for proof wasn't a publicity stunt. It was a turning point. She didn't ask for apologies or vague commitments. She asked for facts, for transparency. And in doing so, she shattered the unspoken agreement luxury brands have relied on for decades. Don't ask, don't tell, because now that the curtain has been pulled back, the world wants answers. This isn't about one bag or one lawsuit. It's about the death of blind loyalty in fashion. The collapse of myth-making in a world that now values receipts over reputation. Consumers aren't dazzled by exotic skins and European branding anymore. They want truth, ethics, and accountability. And unless Hermes and its peers can provide that, they're not selling luxury. They're selling lies. So now the question isn't just can Hermes recover? It's, will the luxury industry survive this era of truth? And the most viral question echoing across social media remains, if your $30,000 Birkin was made in a 5-hour factory in Shenzhen, did you really buy luxury, or just the illusion of it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what's coming next could change the future of fashion forever.